Merry Christmas again to everybody. And, I don't know how you feel, but I think more than any time of year, this is probably the most nostalgic time. Because this is the time when most of us recall so many memories of times past and people we love and the events which have really touched our hearts. So like Friday night, I was with my family together, some of the traditional Polish customs, of traditional Polish Vigilia dinner. Sometimes we call it Holy Supper. You know, when we're there, you know, probably many of you are either going to that or will share it sometime tomorrow or some kind of a special meal. You know, we laughed, we reminisced, we prayed, we gave thanks. We shared with each other doing the traditional opłatki wafer, where we break off a portion of the wafer as we go to one another, and we tell them how our hopes for them the coming year, and also how much we love them, how much they mean to us in our life. You know, we exchanged gifts, we shared our memories, and of course, we ate a lot of food and a lot of cookies. You know. And over the years, I've been blessed in my life and in my vocation by encountering many people who in some way or another have touched my life. And it's over Christmas that it's the time that it's perfect for exchanging cards. And I do send out a lot of cards. But everyone I send is done with joy and love and thanks for the gift that that person or that family is to me. And so we come together today to celebrate this very special day. And we need to reflect on what it is that we celebrate in our lives. And I don't know about you, but I at times would get frustrated with when I look, whether it's our society or at our country, which tells us that it's not politically correct to outwardly express anything that has a religious connotation in public, because we don't want to unduly impose our beliefs on any other person. So then, to be politically correct, these beautiful trees back here are no longer Christmas trees, are they? No, they're holiday trees, so that we don't offend anybody. But I don't have to get too upset about that anymore. If you take, for instance, what the word holiday means. It comes from the Old English Peleg, which means holy. And then day comes from the Latin deo, or dei, which means God. So instead of calling this a Christmas tree, what it really means, if we call it a holiday tree, that this is the tree of the holiness of God. Not bad, if you think about it. And then you think about trees, Christmas trees, holiday trees, Christmas trees, right? To begin with, like, where did the tradition come from? So the earliest tradition that I know of goes back to St. Boniface in the 8th century. He was a missionary from England who was sent to the Germanic countries that were pagan to bring them the Christian faith. And on one particular Christmas Eve, he was going through a forest and he came across a whole bunch of people standing in front of this huge oak tree that were ready to sacrifice a child to this tree, because they believed that the tree was this pagan god Thor. And they needed to do this, and they did this every year so that they would be spared from any calamities, and they wanted to appease Thor. Well, Boniface was, you know, needless to say, he would not stand by for any of this, and he showed them exactly how powerful this pagan god was. And so some traditions say that he had an axe there. Others say that he actually used his hand, and in one swing, this mighty oak tree fell down. And then there, as the tree was felled, there underneath the tree was a small fir, a small evergreen that was in its place. And St. Boniface says that this tree, unlike a tree that you actually put people to death for, this tree is to symbolize life, and is to be called the tree of the Christ child. So that's one of the origins of the Christmas tree. And sometimes we feel that we get so overwhelmed with decorations that we put around and that we spend too much time on that as opposed to recognizing about Jesus. And it looks like it was a real good year for poinsettias, right? I'll say. But if you think about the poinsettia, the tradition of the poinsettia goes back to Mexico. And many years ago, it was the custom on Christmas Eve to take a gift and place it on the altar for the baby Jesus. And as the legend has it, there was a poor boy who could not afford a present. And so he was too embarrassed to go into the church. And so, crying, he kneeled outside the church and he prayed. And it said that on the spot where he prayed, a beautiful, vibrant plant grew. The poinsettia, we call it now, at that time was called the flower of the Holy Night. Sometimes we think that we spend too much time on food and goodies and things like that. And you might think, why? There's candy by the manger scene. We actually have candy canes by the baby Jesus. And you might think, well, that's not too good. But if you know the legend behind it, there was a candy maker who wanted to make a candy that would serve to witness his Christian faith. And so to make this candy, he wanted something. He wanted a candy that was pure white, that would symbolize the virgin birth and the sinless nature of Jesus. But he also wanted a candy that was solid like a rock, like the foundation of the church, and also firm because it represents the promise that God gave to his people. And so then he wanted to construct the candy cane in a way so that it would make the letter J for Jesus. But if you actually turn the candy cane the other way around, it becomes a shepherd's staff because Jesus is the good shepherd and he's there to reach out to all the fallen lambs that have gone astray. Then he stained his white candy with red stripes to show the scourging that Jesus received by which we could be healed. And then through his death, we would receive the promise of eternal life. You know, too often, when we speak of things like the commercialization of December 25th, we might think also about how many more times do you see pictures of Santa Claus as opposed to the baby Jesus. Now, in all fairness, we don't want to give Santa a bad rap because Santa loves Jesus very much, just as much as Jesus loves Santa Claus too. So let me tell you a little bit about Santa Claus. Santa was born about 1,600 years ago, and he wasn't always called Santa Claus. His name, it was only in the last 200 years that he was called that. His name was Nick, okay? And he lived a good, holy life, and he became a saint. So he became Saint Nicholas. And it's only when we hear the German translation of Saint Nicholas, Saint Niklaus, Santa Claus, right? So that's how he got that name. Now, it's been said that Santa Claus lives up north, right? The North Pole, most people think, for instance. Well, since he is Saint Nicholas, that means that he also has another permanent residence a little further north than the North Pole, which we call heaven, okay? And Saint Nicholas showed his devotion to God by his extraordinary kindness and generosity, and he was a model of his faithfulness in giving. He was a lover of the poor, and he was the patron of all children. And Saint Nicholas put Christ at the center of his life and ministry and his entire existence. And Santa Claus, he gives all that he has to others in order to bring them love and joy and peace and hope. And so when we embrace the true tradition of Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus, it is one way to proclaim the true center of Christmas, and that is the birth of that great gift called Jesus. Sometimes these elements of our Christmas celebration seem to overshadow or maybe even eliminate the idea of God from Christmas. But they can't, and we can't, Because every aspect of our being, every aspect of our life reflects God. And that's actually so refreshing to think about when you consider how we all too often focus all of our attention on Christmas on what? The present, right? We focus on the present, but not the real gift. You've all heard the phrase, right? Jesus is the reason for the season. I think it would be far more correct to say, you are the reason for the season. Jesus is the gift. If it was not for our salvation, if it was not because God loved us so much, Jesus would never have been born of the Virgin Mary by the power of the Holy Spirit. Jesus is truly a gift. He's a gift to me and a gift to you. Jesus is present with us, whether we're in our work, in our school, in our family. Jesus is present in His Word, in the church, in the sacraments. Jesus is with us in our successes, in our failures, in our sickness, in our health, in our poverty, in our plenty, now, forever, always. God's promise of salvation to us has been realized because of this little child, Jesus. And because of Jesus, and because of this, we have the gift of faith. And that faith kindles the hope in our hearts to know God's love, to experience God's love, and to share God's love. Every life lived in faith, whether it's my life, whether it's your life, whether it's Santa's life, it should inspire others to see a difference in that life. A difference which is Jesus, and the difference that Jesus makes. And this difference happens because love became incarnate. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and it transforms our hearts and our lives. Our lives and the lives of all human beings are forever different because Jesus became one of us in all things except sin. And Jesus didn't do this for himself. He did it for me. He did it for you. Because you are the reason for the season. And Jesus is the gift. And may we recognize and nurture and hold precious forever this gift of Jesus in our lives. And may we use this gift to touch the lives of many. Have a blessed Christmas.